15. I'm starting with the prose section. Open your books to page 1515 in the textbook. If you have the PDF, you can open that. Now, as usual, there are the icebreakers first. So let's do that. And later on, I'll keep on explaining. Keep looking in your textbooks. Keep a pencil with you. And I'm dictating here and reading. On to the summit. We reach the top. Discuss with your partner. 1515 in the textbook. 15, the 1.2 chapter. We reach the top. Now there is a web given here in the icebreakers. Climbing. Now the activities connected to climbing. Right there. Trekking. Fill in those blocks. Trekking. Mountaineering. Ice climbing. Wall climbing. And scrambling. Now, what is scrambling? Scrambling means you don't have a specific aim of going to a particular point or height. It's just, climbing here and there. So that is scrambling. So ice climbing, trekking, mountaineering, scrambling, and wall climbing, different activities connected to climbing in this web. Come to the next. The next one, you don't have to do anything. It's just a dialogue.
Your screen isn't being seen, ma'am.
There's no need of the screen. You see in your textbook, I'm dictating. So it's on page 15. See the second one, there are certain prerequisites that you cancel. There's nothing there to do. It's just a dialogue. Come to the next, the last one on page 15. Discuss with your partner the various hazards. Now the hazards and the risks that a mountaineer or a trekker has to face, write down. Breathing. Now, as you go higher, there's less of oxygen. So breathing. Snowstorm. Poor visibility. Gale. Gale is strong wind. Gale, G-A-L-E, gale. Mishap or accidents. Mishap. Floods. Exertion. And lightning. Now, these are the risky factors or the hazards that a mountaineer or a trekker has to face. I'll repeat again: breathing, snowstorm, bad visibility, poor visibility, gale, mishap, floods, exertion, and lightning. Turn the page. Now I'm going through this chapter. Now this particular chapter written by Tenzing Norgay, who along with Edmund Hillary were the first to climb, scale the Mount Everest. So, see in your books, Tenzing Norgay, known by birth as Namgyal Wangdi and often referred to as Sherpa Tenzing, was a Nepali Indian Sherpa mountaineer. He was one of the first two individuals known to reach the summit of Mount Everest, which he accomplished with Edmund Hillary on May 29, 1953. Now, the awards that he has won for his expedition. The first one, Tiger Medal, 1938 by Himalayan Club for this expedition. Second one, Star of Nepal, 1953, King Tribhuvan. King Tribhuvan of Nepal. In Nepal, they still have that monarchy system. So King Tribhuvan of Nepal, all accomplishments. Third, Padma Bhushan, 1959 by Government of India for all his accomplishments. Okay. Tenzing describes the climb to the top and all events occurred during the historic climb. Article also describes what brought him climbing to the mountains. When we left Camp 9, now Camp 9. Now, what is this Camp 9? As you trekkers and mountaineers, one, one day they cannot complete the. Siddharth, please mute yourself. Okay. In a single day, the task cannot be done. So it takes. He says nine. They have a camp after every particular height. See, climbing is done during the daytime. Night they sleep in the tent. They pitch a tent on the snow. They cut to the ice there, pitch a tent, and sleep during the night. So after a certain height of certain kilometers, there are these camps. Now, Camp 9 is the last one, after which they reach the top. So when we left Camp 9 on Friday morning, I was determined to get to the top on this day. That morning, I remember thinking I was to get to the top even if I died. Now, why does he say that? Because the earlier attempts he had failed. They had failed. And so he said, now whatever happens, it will be do and die. I was not afraid to die that day. We set out we set out early and all the way from the camp 9 to peak. We alternated. Now they alternated. Now sometimes they had to change the course because maybe of the too much ice, and then they themselves alternated means what they changed their positions. Sometimes Hillary was first, sometimes Tenzing was first because they wanted to distribute the workload evenly amongst themselves. Why should one remain behind all the time and the other should remain in front? So they changed their places. I would take the lead and then Hillary. The man who follows when climbing has a difficult job both in climbing up and down. He is the anchor. The man going in the lead cuts the steps and breaks the ice. Now he says the man who is following has a difficult job, more difficult job. Why? He he's he's following the first person who's the person in front who's breaking the ice and making way. So the task is not easy for him too. But the one who is behind, it's difficult to follow him. Follow means what? See, they are tied together in a rope. Now he will explain that later on. Come to the next paragraph. In my pocket, I had four flags. When we were still at Camp 4, Colonel Hunt gave me three flags, those of Britain, United Nations, and Nepal. He charged me with the duty of planting them on the top of the world. So he was given. Colonel Hunt was the leader of the expedition, and he had given these three flags. These three flags are now why these flags? Because whoever reaches the top first, the country flag has to be uh, pitched there, or has to be planted, or has to be hoisted. These three flags are in your care, he said. When you and Hillary reach the top, put them at the peak. I'm sure that you and Hillary are going to do it. Means this time at least you will win, will reach there. I told Colonel Hunt that I was carrying the Indian flag with me and I would like to be on the top with other flags. I had to ask Colonel Hunt's permission in his capacity as the leader of the expedition because he was the leader of the expedition. Colonel Hunt, he had to take his permission saying that he wants to carry the Indian flag too. Now, why Indian flag? Mount Everest, all these mountains are actually in India, but sharing their, the other side of it, Nepal or China or the other borders. So, Indian flag. Colonel Hunt said, by all means, I'm glad to know that you brought an Indian flag. After 1 hour of steady going, we cut across from southwest and started the west side where we had to pass up a steep line of rocks. Now he's describing all the four sides of the top. This was slow and difficult. Once we had cleared these, there was nothing barring our way to top but a snow-covered incline. Incline, a sudden slanting slope, sloping less and less as it neared the top. These last 60 or 70 feet up the top were not very dangerous. But we kept up the same steady pace and we reached the small flattened summit almost together. During the last feet from the peak, Hillary and I were moving about 20 feet apart. We were tied together with a rope. Now, see, all these climbers especially the snow-covered, risky mountains and all. They tie themselves to a rope. Why? In case somebody is at risk, somebody slips and all, so they can hold the rope tight and they can save the. So it is, like a helping each other in the team. Most of the time, the rope was loose, but when we went over dangerous ground, we drew it taut, we tightened it. This rope was a symbol. It tied us together. One could not move without the other. We were not two individuals, but a team. Now he says, we did not consider ourselves as individuals, but a team. Why? Each other's moral support and help. I have been asked many times who was first. Within each of the summit, I did not think of who was going to be first. I am sure that Hildu was not thinking that. Climbing takes all your attention. You have many more important worries. What does it matter whether I reach the top first or Hillary? Our main thought was that both of us reached the top. We had to, one couldn't do it alone. If there had been a difference of 1,000 feet between us, then one would make the claim. But even then, only the man behind them could tell the distance between the two. Only the one who is behind can confirm how far he is from the one who is leading. Next page. When we reached Kathmandu, we discovered that a controversy had arisen. Now, what is this controversy? Every time now, whatever good work or whatever new work is to be done, and all people are always there to criticize and create problems or create a controversy. Now this will come now. We talked it over, Hillary, Colonel Hunter, and I. We agreed that all the talk was childish. So we made a pact. They made a pact, agreement, that they will not fall in any controversy. And if each of us signed it in the office of the Prime Minister of Nepal, each one signed his own statement. I have a copy of Hillary's statement, which I carry in my pocket. So they took each other's statement in case something happens to each one. At least that proof is there. So they were carrying. Now, what was there in that statement? It reads Kathmandu, June 22nd, 1953. On May 29, Tenzing Sherpa and I left our high camp on Mount Everest for our attempt on the summit. As we climbed upwards to the south summit, first one and then the other would take a turn at leading. We crossed over the south summit and moved along the summit ridge. Now, summit ridge is a narrow piece of land there. We reached the summit almost together. We embraced each other overjoyed at the success. Then I took photograph of Tenzing holding aloft flags of Great Britain, Nepal, United States nations, and India. Now this was signed by Hillary. There is another paper like this in English signed by me. Thus, we will not take part in any controversy. Controversy, who was first? That is the controversy. So they did not want to say that. They wanted to say both of them were first. As the statement says, Hillary and I embraced when we reached the top. We did it as well as our bulky equipment would let us. Now, every time he says we, he does not say I. And that is to show that, that both were humble and thinking of each other, and the simplicity did not want to fall in any kind of controversy. I remember saying to him, we have done it. But we couldn't hear. We had our oxygen mask on because heavy equipment and all, they could not even embrace each other properly. My first thought on reaching the top was a sense of gratitude to God. And after having failed 6 times, now he's telling 6 times, 6 attempts, he had failed climbing the Mount Everest. He had blessed me with fulfillment of this desire. So the first thought of gratitude, naturally, when you accomplish something, firstly, you don't think of anyone else but God, because uh, God's help, strength, and all that helps you in your work always. He had blessed me with fulfillment of this desire I had held so long. I placed on the summit the offerings to God that I had carried with me. This is in accord with my religion. Now, each religion has a certain way of, praying or offering, uh, you know, praise, different types, the way they worship. Both my wife and I are Buddhists. I could not kneel because of my clothes and equipment, but I offered a silent prayer in my heart. The offerings were biscuits, candy, and a little blue pence. Now, what is this now? Offerings. Now, when people go for like say pilgrimage, Hajj, and even touristing new areas on some kind of expedition, all cannot join in. Only those who are going. So the others offer some money or something. What is their favorite? Uh, they offer that so that they can keep it there, and that can be as a offering. My youngest daughter Nima had given me a pencil before I left home. She asked me to put it on the top of the mountain as an offering. So, a little girl, naturally, that pencil was a precious possession of hers. It was an ordinary blue pencil, not even a long one, but it was one of her prized possessions. As I put it down, I pointed out to Hilary. He gave me a big smile, showing that he understood. Now, he understood that naturally this particular pencil can be a small child's offering, no one else. Then I got out flags which I had on piece of the string about 4 feet long. I fastened one into my eyes and held it to pictures as I held it up. As I had to bring my eyes down, axe down with me, I buried one end of the string in the ice on the top and the other on the snow on the slope down below. When we left, they were lying flat against the summit. Now, what he had to do, he had to cut that ice and pitch those flags there. But now, when you cut ice, naturally it starts melting. Because of that ice melting, the flags could not remain like as if they were hoisted, they were lying down flat. I was very thirsty. I took out a water tumbler for drink, but found the water in the metal container had frozen, so I couldn't quench my thirst. I ate some biscuits and offered some to Hilary. I was wearing a red scarf, which my great friend Lambert, leader of the 1952 Swiss expedition, had given me last year. Now, this leader, Lambert, he had died in that expedition, but he had his scarf. It was just a year ago on May 28th when we were standing at 28,200 feet high that he gave me the scarf. Now, see that height, they had reached that height of 28,000. Mount Everest is 29,000 or something. They reached 28,000 and then there was some mishap, and this man, uh, Lambert, died there and they had to come down properly. I wore it all the way up the mountain from Darjeeling. As I stood at the top, I remembered him and felt that he was with me. I felt absolutely fit at the summit. My mind was absolutely clear. I didn't feel tired. I felt exhilarated. Now, what is exhilarated? Very thrilled, very happy, excited. Now, naturally, when people, it was a very clear sensation. When people go for long, say, hikes, walks or some kind of expedition, when they achieve that, when they reach that, that they forget all the exertion, all the problems that they had faced because of the excitement that they have done it. Below all the hills and mountains look like gods and goddesses to me. Now, this has a meaning there. Why they look like gods and goddesses? Because luckily there was no mishap. It seems as if these mountains and these peaks and all had helped him in climbing the top. So they appeared like, for him, they were like gods and goddesses. The plains below look like so many broken pieces of a map. 2 or 3 people could stand there on the roof of the world if you cut ice. 20 or 30 feet below the top, there was enough flat square for 2 people to sleep. You could pitch one tent there. The summit is flat on one side and steep on the other. There is snow on the northern side, rocks on the south, east, and snowy rock on the west. We stayed on the top a little more than 15 minutes. Now, 15 minutes they stayed on the top. Why? Because they had reached the top of the world, conquered the difficult mountain, and so that for some time they wanted to remain there. We were lucky there was no gale, no gale, strong wind, or it would have swept us away. My next thought was how to get down safely. On the descent from the summit, I was walking behind Hillary. I was following him and holding the rope tightly, and my determination was to make sure he descended safely. Now, the descent down is more difficult, he says. Why? Because you're in that hurry. People are in that hurry. Oh, now let's go down fast. Going down is easier. It's easier, no doubt, but more risky, more dangerous because if the leg slips, if the slight slip, then a person can risk his life. I must say that the climb down was more difficult and dangerous than the climb up. If you slipped down, you would go into Kanshan Glacier and there would be no trace left for you of you. Kanshan Glacier is the most dangerous and a large glacier. You know, all the time from these glaciers, the water keeps, the ice, when the ice keeps melting, we get these rivers from these glaciers. So if one falls into it, the person cannot even be seen where what has happened to that person. No caution needed. Of course, it took less time climbing down, but you needed more caution. When I reached Camp 9, my first thought was, thank God we've been spared an accident. And if up to now there have been no accidents, I hope there will be none in future. I'd always prayed to God and He had saved me. At Camp 9, Hilary and I were in no mood of talking. We just attended to our own things. We stayed there about half an hour. We boiled some snow to make lemon water and drank it. When we left, we took only our sleeping bags and left everything else behind in the tent. Now, why did they leave everything? Only whatever was needed to come down, they took that because, coming down without all that heavy equipment is again very risky, that load. So they left that behind, what was not necessary. From Camp 9 to Camp 8, where we spent the night, was an easier job. Just above Camp 8, where the others could see us, I raised my arm with my thumb up. Noise and Low saw us and their faces flushed with joy. In this way, I was able to tell them of our success. As we got nearer to Camp 8, Flo came to meet us and came up about 300 feet with tea and coffee. Another feet down, we met Noise, who brought us more tea. This tea smelled kerosene. Apparently, it had been made in a hurry, and somehow some kerosene got into the welcome cup. That time, that gas stove or whatever, that was not there. So it was kerosene that they used. But I thought since the gentleman had taken so much trouble to bring it, I was going to enjoy it, whatever the smell. And that is about the. Now, let me tell you, for the examination or for the test, what you are going to get is a passage from the prose section. Same thing with the poetry, you get some lines. Then questions are based on the passage given. Plus, there'll be one or two GK questions related to it, not directly from the passage. Plus, grammar. The grammar, whatever is there. Now, what I'm going to do next time, you all are going to keep the uh, notebook with you all. There's a lot of grammar behind the chapters. So that grammar has to be done. Grammar and writing skill that you will be doing in the notebook. Now, whatever you can write in the text, you can write in the textbook. There's no need to write that in the notebook. So now this is how it will go, for the test and for the exam. A passage. Now, supposing, for example, on page 20, this last passage is given, say more caution needed till the end. Supposing this passage given, questions will be based on mainly from this passage, not from the entire chapter. But you have to do at least 2 to 3 readings. You should read twice or thrice the chapters because you never know which passage will come from where. So you have to read the chapters at least 2 to 3 times. The questions will be based on that from the passage, some GK questions, and the grammar. Come to page 21, students. Now, of course, I won't be able to complete it today. Yes, yes. That is the organization, that Commonwealth World Foundation. That those are the organizations from these from where these people belong. That is noise and low. Okay. That is. So that is what that is Tangshan Glacier. What did you ask? Glacier. See, glaciers are huge blocks of ice on the snow-covered mountains. Huge blocks of ice, like mountains, which keep on melting all the time. And from that water, we get these rivers. That is the Ganges and the other Brahmaputra and the others. It is from the glaciers that we get the water of the rivers. And glaciers are snow-covered, huge blocks of blocks of ice. That is a glacier. It's the name of the glacier. It is the name. Kangshing is the name of that glacier. Okay. So come to page 21. Now, see, I won't be able to finish the entire chapter. I mean, all the grammar and all that. That I'll be doing next time. Only what we can do is I'll be finishing, completing that A1 and A2 part today. So let's do that. Now see the first one. Summarize to the class. This will not come. Such questions summarizing the chapter will not come. So leave that. Come to A2. See, all the questions are not important. What is important from the examination and the test point of view, I'll be telling as we go along. A2, complete the web, highlighting the feelings. Now, summarize the chapter that A1. Once you read, you know what the chapter is about. So that is not necessary. That whole thing will not come. Now, from the passage, students, 2 marks questions will be there, not more than that. 2 marks, like, the questions and all that. Grammar, of course, one mark each. Now, when 2 marks questions are there, how much will you write? How much will you write? You don't spend a lot of time in writing. Now, the assessment pattern, HSC pattern is such that out of 2, you will not get full 2 marks. Sometimes you may get, if it is a web and all that. But those subjective type of answers, don't keep on writing lengthy answers. Now, for this 2 marks question, how much will you write? Not more than 5 or 6 sentences. Okay? And the marks for such questions is 1.5, not full 2 marks. Only if it is very nicely written presentation and all that, you get full 2 marks. So don't write too much, just 4 to 5 lines for 2 marks questions. Come to A2. Now, A2 is complete the web highlighting the feelings, emotions of Tenzin after reaching the summit. Write down that. First one, felt exhilarated. Felt exhilarated. EXHILARATED. Felt exhilarated. Felt very happy. Felt exhilarated. EXHILARATED. Next. Next block box. Gratitude to God. Gratitude to God. Next, happy there was no gale. Happy there was no gale. Gale is not happy there was no gale. Then both embraced each other, saying they had done it. Both embraced each other, saying that they had done it. And there are many you can keep on writing. Feeling fit, clear in mind, that also you can write at the side. Whatever you remember, whatever feelings come, that is the chapter is important. Happy there was no gale. Gale, gale. Happy there was no gale, no strong wind. Then feeling fit, clear in mind, or both embraced each other, saying they had done it. Or they excited that they had done it. That's it. Now, is there any doubt, students? So far, because the rest I will continue next time. So far, is there any doubt on this chapter? On from what from where we started and so far? Is there any doubt? You can ask. Now, I had sent that video or audio on the sewer. Now, there were students asking many questions. You don't have to do anything, just go through it and see how the appreciation, how the answers are to be written. Just go through that. It is just for your reference. That video or the audio, what which is there, is for your reference only for you to understand how poetry section is done. You don't have to write anything from there. Yes, but I had given you the homework of writing the appreciation and those composing those lines on the poem. That homework I had given, that should be written in the notebook. Has anyone written those lines on the poem? Now, one was the sewer, and the other I told you to write, I think, on a tree, any tree, 4 lines on any tree. I think if you have not done it, if anyone has written it, you can read now, or you can read now, or write it and see that you do it next time for homework, that is on any tree and the sewer, which is already given half of it in the textbook. Has anyone written? See, this homework is done, given especially for your help. I told you to write this in the notebook. Now, if you are not going to jot in, see, let me tell you all that when you jot something down, when you write something, it gets registered in your mind. You remember it better than by just reading and just forgetting. Now, when you write down, you remember the answers. So now everything I cannot ask you all to write. It will be a bit too much. What is important, I tell you all to write, and that much at least you all can do. Has anyone written those lines? Nobody. Any doubts you'll have?
मैम लैग हुआ आपका.
क्या हुआ? Yes, I asked anyone who has written those lines to read it. Or otherwise, if you have any doubt, please ask. We just have a few minutes more, and then I will end this meeting. Yes, very sad. Pathetic means very sad. Sad situation. no doubts? If there are no doubts, then I will end the meeting. Okay, students, we'll continue next time. Thank you.